Hi, hunters. Thank you for tuning into the Flush'em and Dustin podcast brought to you by Nick and Tyler, the boys from Ringnecks and Retrievers. In this podcast, we will talk about guns, dogs, gear, and our successes and failures in the field through our combined 40 years of experience. We speak with hunters just like you from across the nation about their days in the field and the many memories they built with their friends and family. We are excited to have you listen. Now let's get to Flushing and Dustin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Nick here and Tyler with Ringnecks and Retrievers and the Flushing and Dustin podcast. We have a very special guest tonight, one that's very close to my heart. Not only a mentor, a coach, a teacher, dog trainer, hunter, best friend. He's many things to me. So I just wanted to give him that introduction because I really appreciate who he is. And today we're going to just get right into it. This is Brian Sorenson. He is from Guttenberg, Iowa. And Brian, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got into hunting, and you can take it all the way back to when you got into Guttenberg and how that all kind of happened.
Thank you very much, Nick. And it's my pleasure to talk to the best conservationists that are out there. And I appreciate the audience because they're really the people that keep our hunting recreation going. So thanks a lot for those of you that are listening out there. First of all, it's a real pleasure to kind of get away from Nick in high school. He had a very big habit of rubbing my head all the time. And he called it good luck.
It was good luck. It was good luck.
Well, we won a lot of ball games, Nick. My name is Brian Sorenson. I'm a rural guy, country guy. Grew up on a farm in north central Iowa in Hancock County. And my dad taught me a lot of about work ethic on the farm, of course. And we always had a farm dog like most people have, and his name was Rex. But Rex just brought the cows up at night, basically, and sat in open gates. Yep. Didn't let any hogs or cattle through, and that's how he was trained. But he wasn't anything like the retrievers you guys own. You guys own very highly trained, and I would say to some extent, elite animals,
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. So
they're athletes. They're complete athletes.
Yep. I'm currently employed. I'm a retired science teacher, basketball coach, and I'm currently employed by the USDA. And my job basically is to protect the trees in Iowa from various invasive pests that have come into our country. So that's what I'm doing currently.
So if you have a bug that you can't identify, send it to Brian.
Yeah, when I was a teacher, I used to get a lot of bugs sent to me by different people wondering what they were, yeah.
That's funny.
So,
a little entomology, that was a course that I took up in a field biology lab after I got out of Vietnam, and I was doing some picking up some credits post BA, and I was up in Bemidji taking an entomology class to the University of Minnesota. It was a fun class, yeah.
And we'll just stop right there, and I know everybody on our call, and Tyler and myself, we appreciate your service, so thank you for that.
Oh.
So, Brian, Mr. Sorenson, why don't you get into it? How did you get into hunting? I'm not even sure if I really know that story. And then, Secondly, how did you get to the dog training part of it? Like, what brought you to that point in your life where you're like, all right, this is what I want to do? And how long have you trained dogs? Like, how long did you do that for?
Okay. First of all, feel very comfortable to call me by my first name. That's just fine.
Well, just a habit. Coach.
Well, I started hunting pheasants on my dad's farm in 1957.
Oh, down to the date.
And I hunted with a side-by-side 12-gauge double barrel that didn't have a bead, and it had a cracked stock. One barrel was modified and the other one was full.
Is that why you can't lift your right arm? Kick
Well,
like
you
a
know
mule.
what? It was a better gun than that Russian 11-pounder that you used to carry.
Yeah, I did have a little bitch. Thing was heavy as
And
shit.
you probably never told people about that Russian gun that you used to carry.
No, I did not.
Anyway, I, I wanted my children to grow up with pets, basically, and probably you guys do too. And
Yeah.
we had some cats and stuff, but when my wife and I bought our first puppy, that kind of changed the dynamics. We really liked dogs, and my first dog's name was Hacksaw, and he was a black lab, and I knew nothing about training, but I wanted him to be obedient, and I wanted him to have good manners. So I started out just by myself doing the research, and in those days it was basically reading a lot of books for me.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
And
for
the
you,
best
for
book I
those of
ever
you that
came
are,
across was James Lamprey, and that was the Bible of retrieving, and I learned a lot from that. And so that's kind of how I got started
I don't
in
want to
training.
interrupt you there, Sorensen, but
Yeah,
for those out there that are a little younger, there was no YouTube back then. You
yeah,
couldn't just hop on Google and type it in.
Yeah.
He was putting in long hours, working hard, reading these books, and then trying to figure it out.
I did. And I love to read at night before I go to bed. And I probably don't read as much as my wife does by any means. She's a tremendous reader, but I do like to read. And James Lamprey was a book that I just couldn't put down because I couldn't wait to use those drills when the time was right. And you know, um, I got real lucky in that I wanted to become better, and I found a retriever club called the Big Wapsie Hunting Retriever Club. And I want to give those guys so much credit because each and every member brought a little information that somebody else probably didn't have to the party. And we met once a month. And when we met that month, we would have our own field trial for the members. And we even had our own ribbons that we handed out if our dogs got a pass.
Oh yeah.
And so you trained to become proficient at your own hunting club's trial. And we were affiliated with the United Kennel Club. And I particularly liked the United Kennel Club because it was by the hunters for the hunters.
Yep.
And it wasn't 300, 400 yard blind retrieves. It was very realistic to hunting experiences that you would come across. And we didn't, UKC doesn't focus on just land or just water. It focuses on both pheasants and waterfowl, both.
Nice.
And I liked that about it.
Hmm.
But those, I can't say enough about the members. And I had a mentor as well. He was a pro, but he was also a biology teacher like me. He taught in Old Wine. And his name is Clarke Campbell. Some of your listeners might know who that man is, but I want to give him a lot of credit because he taught me a lot. So that's how I got into the training part of it. As you know, one thing after another snowballs, right? Right,
Yep.
Tyler? You've been there, I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of fun, isn't it? Because it brings up challenges. And if you're like me, you really like challenges.
Yeah.
You're
And
the
that's
kind of guy that loves that, don't you?
yeah, and that's the fun part that I'm having with my dog is I'm kind of like the same shoes you were when you started. I don't have much background experience. These are my first hunting dogs, and my mentor is, with the times have changed, mine's online, and yours was more in person.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're on the similar boat, just different. Yours is an in-person one, mine's just not an in-person one, and it's awesome watching your dogs just progress. It's pretty cool.
Yes, and it's awesome to watch your dogs progress kind of from the first ones that you had to kind of where I ended up.
Mhm.
Yep.
And you can be very proud of the work you put in no matter how far you go, and So the thing about the UKC that I want to say is that you don't compete against another dog. You compete against a standard. And because you compete against that standard, it takes a lot of judging politics out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of, the problems you could have from trainer to trainer out of it, because you're not competing against that dog. You're competing against standards
Yeah.
at the beginner level, started level, and championship level, So that to me was very appealing. I liked that aspect of it, because you could go to the bar at night and be friends,
That's right. Differences, but you guys are still friends. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
you can have differences and still be friends. Yeah, absolutely.
How many dogs did you take through UKC through your time training them?
Personally, I helped take a lot of other dogs to trials
Yeah.
and run them in trials for other people. And they weren't my dogs, but they were trained, and I knew them because I saw them frequently, and because I trained with guys more than just once a month, the same guys.
Mm-hmm.
We would train together, and then we would meet that one time during the month for a formal trial. But personally, Tyler, I just took one dog, my one dog, my last one. And had I known more, the trainer has to be trained.
Yep, that's right.
And of course, I was in the process of being trained when I kind of first got started. And had I known a lot more, all three of my dogs would have been outstanding. As it was, I got one where I wanted her to go, and she turned out to be just second to none. She was an outstanding animal, and she did things the right way and was consistent. You could count on her,
Yep.
When you went to the line in a field trial without a leash, you didn't have to worry if she was going to break. She was going to sit there, and she was going to wait until you gave her a release command. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I didn't pee my pants too many times with her, but once in a while. I would recommend field trials, and the reason I recommend them is simply because it gets you training 365 days a year, pretty much. You train all the time because, you might want to take your dog to a trial. And that's really why I like and recommend entering a field trial.
Gives you something to work towards.
It's something to work towards, yeah.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
I'm waiting for Tyler to enter his dogs in next year, probably. I don't know if this year's going to work out with COVID and everything.
I thought about it this year, and then obviously COVID came up. And then you talked about, peeing your pants. I think I'd have a pretty wet pants if I entered them this year. So I'm hoping next year.
They make
me nervous.
They make the pens, man. They make the pens. I don't even know.
I'm gonna need them. I'm gonna friggin' need them.
Tyler, you enter in that first class.
Yeah.
No matter how far along you are in your training, enter in that low-level class, that started class. If it's UKC, it's called started.
Yeah.
You do that, and that's designed to hook hunters, to get them to come back again and again. It's like hitting a good golf shot. Man, once you do it, you want to do it again,
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's what I would recommend. No matter how far along your training is, go ahead, enter them in started instead of seasoned. Seasoned is the next step in UKC. And that way it gives you confidence, gives your dogs confidence, and you kind of know what to expect, because you can go to other venues and you watch those other venues perform, and you say, oh my gosh, this is going to be awesome when I get to that stage,
Yeah.
Yeah, when I did mine, I had to have Sorenson walk east of the line for me because I had torn MCL. I couldn't even walk them, and it was like, of course, it was down a little bit of an embankment, and it was all wet because everybody's walking up and down it. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Talk about.
And that's kind of why I stopped training, Nick, is because my knees were, as you know, were so bad, and I eventually had double bypass knee replacement surgery. And that's kind of why
he's got 4-wheel drive knees, and he's back on the basketball court.
Now's when I need a dog, Nick.
Now is when you do need a
And
dog.
now's when I need a dog in that mud, you know?
Yep,
That's right.
absolutely. Need a big hoss.
What
So, go ahead, Tyler.
you can go ahead, Nick.
No, nope,
We're
nope,
kind
go.
of on the topic.
You go.
Still
You go.
talking about the dogs. What was the dog you were talking about that you took? Can you kind of go into a little more detail on her?
Before we get into that, can we back up and just say, what got you hooked on labs or retrievers? Because that's kind of what, obviously we
Yeah.
don't care what dog you use, but I think that'll be interesting to go
Yeah.
to that aspect and then right into Nestle. Yeah.
I really gave that a lot of thought because I had a friend that had a German Wirehair, and that dog was smoking on pheasants. Incredible animal. Had another friend that had a Brittany Spaniel, also incredible animal on pheasants. And so I gave some different species some thought. But what I was doing, Nick, was a lot of waterfowling.
Yep.
And I wanted, and as I looked around, I kept coming back to labs. I looked at all the species that love to retrieve in water, and doggone it, I just kept coming back to labs. A lab has the right demeanor because I had younger children. My wife and I had younger children at the time.
Yep.
And so I liked the demeanor. I liked the short coat. Less likely to pick up stickers and burrs when I pheasant hunted.
Ask Tyler about that.
You can put all the Vaseline on them you want, and pull the burrs
Oh,
out.
whoa, PG, Sorensen, what are we talking about here? Vaseline.
Yeah. I should be clearer, right? And also, a lab is a really strong swimmer. They aren't like the old commercial duck days where a guy bought a Chessie, left his ducks in the duck boat overnight, and tied his Chesapeake up to the duck boat to protect his ducks. That's a Chessie yet today. They got an attitude for the most part. And if I tied my dog up to a duck boat to protect the ducks, they'd lick the guy to death before he left with all the ducks.
Yep.
They just lick him to death. Well, anyway, I love the dog's demeanor, and I love that wide chest. Man, they can swim, and they swim hard, and they have this, for the most part, they have this never give up attitude, and they want to please their owner a great deal. And I loved all of that about them.
I want to interject there because I can remember back when I was looking for a dog and your comment of pleasing your owner, you made the comment, and this was probably a couple of years ago, but it stuck with me. Retrievers, labs, and goldens, they are wee dogs, so they want to hunt with you and work with you. Or there are sometimes our dogs out there that are me dogs, where they won't listen to you and they're just doing what the hell they want to do. They don't give a shit what you say.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the odds are in your favor when you pick the species that we hunt with, you and I.
Yep.
But it's still a roll of the dice once in a while if you're going to get one that really has the kind of traits that you want in a dog, whatever that might be. Some guys want a racehorse greyhound type lab, not me. I want that more traditional British look, big deep chest, short couple, that otter tail. I want all of that, but I don't want, they're training now because in hunt tests, they want those dogs to be faster. And they're training them to be a more of a lean kind of lab, and it just doesn't appeal to me, but that's okay. I mean, it appeals to somebody out there.
Yep.
So can you dive in a little bit more on it's a chocolate lab? I guess I didn't catch her name. I think Nick said it.
Yeah, I'll kind of give you a thumbnail sketch of all three of those dogs that I had that were really, really good. If you have time and if you'd like to hear.
Oh yeah, we got time.
We do.
It's just a short.
Our listeners want to hear it.
Thumbnail deal. The first thing, we were talking about training, and I think I'd like to just interject something there with new trainers, and that is you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to have frustrating moments, and you need to exercise quite a bit of patience, and I think you just need to make sure that you know who you are and who your dog is, and then don't give up. Keep at it, and good things will happen for you. Almost all dog at some point in training goes through a time zone where he says, okay, I've had enough of this, and I'm not going to cooperate, and I'm just going to be my own deal. Well, put him in the kennel. Don't just feed and water him for a week or so, and he's going to be ready to go when you go back out in a week or so.
Yeah.
But don't give up. And I want those new trainers to stay with it, because you'll never have a more rewarding experience when you get the product you want, whatever that might be.
Yep.
And I guess you'd like me to talk a little bit about some of the dogs.
Yep.
I guess, right?
Well, might as well. That's what we're here for.
Well, one of the things I love to train for, by the way, is tracking. I'll give you a quick story.
Yeah.
Clarke Campbell came to my place. We had snow about 6-7 inches on the ground. He always had winged ducks with him, and it was about 11 o'clock, and he goes outside and he says, "Come with me, Sorenson."
11 o'clock at night.
11 o'clock at night, and he says, "Come with me, Sorenson," and he took this duck out, and he had it tied on a twine string, and he kind of dragged it all over the place. Then we put a stick in the ground, and he let that duck go. Now, you know where I live. I live on a ridge, and it's timbered all around me. And that duck started waddling away, and he said, "Let's go inside and have a beverage and watch some TV." And I said, "Okay." Now, this is my mentor talking, and he's got a dog that had won a championship in UKC, AKC, and NARA. One of 3 dogs to have done that at that time, and the dog's name was Tar.
Wow.
And I got to take and train with that dog. Incredible experience. So at 12 o'clock, an hour later, we go back out, and I said, "Clarke, what are you going to do?" He said, "We're tracking." He said, I've been training for tracking. Let's see if this works." And I said, "What?" I said, "We got deer all over the place." I said, "You might not get that dog back." He said, "Okay, I lost a dog." What I remember was he was not in the least worried at all. So
great.
he takes Tar out there, and he takes him, and Tar's got the scent right away, right?
Yep.
And we're standing there and talking. 15 minutes later, we hear, whack. The dog had grabbed that duck at the bottom of the hill west of where I live, Nick.
Yeah, it's way down there.
And in about 10 minutes later, up he came and delivered that dog to hand to Clarke. That was a training thing. I said, "I'm going to do some training exercises from now on."
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and of course, tracking is a lot of fun. You've been watching your dog when they've tracked,
Yep.
Fun to train that way. But anyway,
no, absolutely.
I had 3 really good dogs. The first dog's name was Hacksaw. I'll give you a little bit of a deal about each one of them. He could have been maybe could have been my best dog if I'd have known anything, but at that time the trainer hadn't been trained.
Yep.
And so all I could do is all I knew, and that was to read a book and do what I could do. But he had an experience that I have to tell you about.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I was pheasant hunting with Ed Dvorak and Mike Sass and George Killian and those guys. And I don't know who shot the bird. I think I did, but
I mean, that's what Tyler always says too when one goes
down.
Come on. Didn't even shoot. Well, I think I got that one. Oh, okay.
But Hacksaw was on him. He was on that rooster like crazy. And as he's coming back across this plowed field, Hacksaw notoriously had a soft mouth, but that bird flew out of his mouth. Now Hacksaw, and had to be shot again. That bird had to be shot twice. And he flew right out of Hacksaw's mouth. Hacksaw really had a soft mouth. Now he was coming across a plowed field. Maybe he stumbled a little bit, and maybe that contributed to it. I don't know. But that was one experience I remember with Hacksaw. Along comes a dog by the name of Spike. He's another black lab male.
Yep.
And Spike was an incredible dog. He hunted with that German wire hair and that Brittany Spaniel, and the 3 of those made great triple. They they honored each other. The thing about my dog is that sometimes those darn birds will get right down in the water in a creek if you're hunting them.
Oh yeah.
And or maybe you'll drop one in a pond or something. I got the dog that goes and gets those kind of birds.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so that's what I remember about our hunts with those other birds. One other thing, and I didn't tell this story very often, and the reason is because at that time, most people probably wouldn't believe it, but bald eagles were making a comeback. And out in Ferry Slough, there was an island called Drakehorn Island and had 2 dead trees on it with branches. And there was always an eagle that was a bald eagle that was sitting up in that dead tree. Well, it's one point in time, I shot this duck, crippled it, and it was probably a pretty hard cripple, but the current was going south. Nick knows where I'm. Yep. I've taken Nick right there many times. I don't know about many, but I know I took him enough times there that he missed a lot of birds.
The truth is finally.
No, I'm just shitting him. Nick is a hell of a shot, even with that big old Russian gun. Once that thing got swinging, you couldn't stop it, you know. And unbelievable. But anyway, I shot
a double once out of the air.
I shot this duck, and he's in the current. He's going south, Nick. And all of a sudden, this eagle comes out of the tree, and this eagle is going after that cripple. And it was a race between my dog, Spike, and that doggone mallard. And I'm standing on the top of on the front of my John boat on the deck, and I'm stomping up and down trying to scare that eagle. Some guy yells, "Shoot that damn bird!" Right. Well, Spike got to him first and brought him back, but that was a hunt with that animal.
Wow.
And then the last one I've got to tell you about, and I'll try to make it short here, but it was Ferry Slough with my rail boat blind Nick.
Yep.
Ferry Slough there, and I shot a drake mallard.
And what was her name?
Nestle.
Yes, and
so, she was a 70-pound chocolate.
You went to 2 males, and then your last one was a female. Can I ask why you made that switch? What was the thought process there?
I just wanted a chocolate. I had 2 girls. I wanted a female.
Yeah. I
wanted to have a litter with my daughters. They each got, when she did have a litter, I got little bitty doll bottles, and I got milk for dogs, and my girls got to feed those puppies because Nestle had 11 pups. And so it was kind of hard for her to feed all those. And so the girls helped her out a lot. Anyway, I wanted that for my girls' experience of baby puppies.
I hope my wife doesn't listen to this. I don't need those kind of ideas around here right now.
Yeah, well, Nestle she really did the job. But back to this story on this animal, she saw that bird get hit. It locked up its wings when it got hit, it didn't keep flying. And all of a sudden, beyond Ferry Slough East there's a rise,
Yep.
That bird folded up and went down, and Nestle saw all that.
Yeah, what would you say that is? That's, give us what would you say, 300 yards?
No, the width on that.
It's pretty long, right?
Yeah, it's 100 yards for sure. Absolutely. Maybe more, Nick. I couldn't tell you. I've never taken and ranged it. I know it's a long way, and it's got current.
Do you still have some rulers from high school? You could just lay them in the water and.
I got a range finder.
Oh, there you go.
But anyway, Nick, Nestle marked that bird, and she had to go out over over a gas tank, over a transom, because we were in a rail blind, right?
Yep.
She couldn't go out where she normally stood. She had to and she dove off the back end of that into the current, swam across, which is a long. You know how wide it is. It's really long.
I think the important thing here too, Sorensen, is the marking ability of Nestle, because when you're in river water, river current, that's a whole new ball game from pond. Because I remember when we did some training with diesel and stuff out in the water like that, it was a new ball game from the pond stuff. But sorry, anyway.
Well, I took the dog that you named after a mountain. What was the yellow lab that you had?
Denali.
Denali. I took and hunted Denali out there without you a couple times.
Yeah, you did.
But at any rate, I trained out there, and Nestle, and you're absolutely right. But the biggest thing is she gets to the other bank. She stops and looks back, and I gave her a back hand signal. Didn't yell at her, didn't say back. I just gave her the back hand signal. She whirled right around, and she was out of sight. for a good 15 minutes. And I'm wondering what the hell is going on back there. Is she chasing muskrats and dicking around, and what the hell is she doing, you know? And
Yeah.
Jim Ertl hunted with me 23 opening duck seasons, was with me, and he says, we better go after her. And I said, let's give her a chance. Let's give her a shot. He said, you're giving her 15 minutes. All of a sudden she appears on the bank, duck in her mouth, looks around to see where the hell she is, because she's not sure. She finally sees the boat. I give her a tweet I use an Acme whistle, and I know Tyler uses an Acme whistle. Yep. I give her come tweets on the whistle. She bails into the water with this Drake mallet in her mouth, hits the current, winds up 50 yards down from my boat, runs up the mud, and gets back to me. This whole thing probably took at least a half an hour.
Oh man.
And but she was always in great shape. I got another story about my daughter walking the sidewalk. Mallard went out. My daughter doesn't control dogs, right? Nestle said, I can get that mallard. It was a hen mallard, and she was faking like she was hurt with a hurt wing. She was fine. She was typically okay. They get to the middle of the Mississippi River above the lock and dam. That bird flies off, and now Nestle's in the current. The gates are up. She gets swept through the dam. She gets swept through the dam. My daughter is crying. She's on the phone. She didn't have a cell phone. She had to run to a friend's place. She said, Dad, Nestle is going through the dam. That's all I heard. I took off for the dam. I got to the dam. There was a towboat in the lock. I got in the lock chamber, and I said, my dog is right out there coming. She just went through the dam, I said. I'm standing in the back of his boat. I'm yelling at Nestle, and I'm whistling at Nestle, and she is out of gas, man, because she has been in that water now, swimming after that duck, and now going through the through the dam itself, through the gates. She'd have drowned if the gates were in. It was spring, and it was high water, and so the gates were up, if you know what I'm talking about with the lock and dam. Anyway, the guy said, hey, you get her here, and we'll get her on board for you. A shipmate grabbed this guy's ankles. He went over the side of his boat. He grabbed this 75-pound animal, and he said, I got her. And the other guy on deck hoisted the guy and the dog on the deck, and they all flopped exhausted on the deck. About then, there were about 15 or 20 people that had gathered to watch this thing play out, because they heard the cries and the screams, and they heard the electricity of the moment, and the word traveled, and there were people all over. And when Nestle came aboard that boat, everybody was clapping, including me. Was I ever happy?
Oh, yeah.
My God.
So that wasn't a biology experiment then, huh?
Oh, my God.
Man.
Jeez.
No, most experiments I did were pretty tame compared to that.
Man, you're lucky she was in as good a shape as she was.
Nick, I'm glad you recognized that. My dogs were always in really good shape, and she was very fit.
Yeah.
And had she not been fit, she wouldn't have been able to swim, and she'd have drowned. She really would have. Dogs can drown.
Oh yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah.
So that's kind of 3 stories about my dogs.
Man. Round of applause. Those were great. Got me all hyped up over those.
I heard you guys talking about first aid kits on one of your podcasts.
Yeah.
Great podcast, guys. My dog Spike got his paw, and I've told Nick this many times, got his paw in a 220 conibear.
Oof.
And that's a coon trap, right? And my friend Mike Sass got to Nestle before I did, and Nestle doesn't know who's what. Spike just knows that he's got a lot of pain, and he was biting at anything he could bite, right?
Yeah.
And when Mike got down there, he could see that the dog was going to turn around and snap at him. He took his coat off and put it over his head.
Yep.
That is a good thing to remember.
Yeah.
If that ever happens to anybody, take and cover your dog with a coat so that he can't hurt you. All he knows is he's in pain, and he's snapping at the closest thing because he's hurting.
Yep.
Fortunately, that trap had rusted springs, and it didn't break any of his bones in his legs. It opened up the flesh just a little bit, but not bad.
That's
Wow.
good.
So that was a great podcast on a first aid kit. I always carry one.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's too many times I think Tyler and I both up until this year just wing it, go, and we don't even think about what could happen. It's just let's do it. So yeah, no, that's that's good advice there too.
I have to apologize. I see my glasses are glaring back.
No worries.
It's all
Look
right.
like a monster.
So take it just one quick step further, and then obviously I'd love to get back into the stories about some Canadian geese and things of that nature. But
Saskatchewan.
yeah, but
Saskatchewan, for
before
sure.
we get there, can you just give us a quick rundown? You did not use an e-collar, which I know I used one, Tyler uses one, and so many, I think most every hunter does nowadays. Maybe a few don't, but I would say 95% of everybody does, So how was that, and how, like, the challenging aspect of that? I mean, that had to be repetition, 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 obviously.
E-collars have resulted in such good dogs these days at a quicker rate.
Yep.
Let me just tell you that I think that correctable moments need to be done at the moment, not later.
Yep.
And I'm talking not 4 or 5 minutes later, right now. You need to do it immediately. It has to be immediate because it's more meaningful to the dog to be corrected in a correctable moment.
Yep.
And so e-collars are a tremendous tool, absolutely unbelievable. And it's something that I definitely would have used. I will say this, when e-collars first came out, and it was toward the time when my knees were bad and I was cutting back on training, I just couldn't do it. There weren't a lot of people that really knew how to use them. They just wanted to zap their dog.
Yep.
And and I'll tell you, I saw this dog quite a few times, and I trained with him, and it was a male and it was a lab, and he was a lot like Diesel.
Yeah.
Heavy goer and wanted to get it done, right? That winter, I didn't train with that dog. And the next time I saw that dog was at a training session the next April. That dog was so mean, you couldn't reach down to take and pet him. And the reason is because the e-collar had changed that dog's personality into what I would call a mean dog.
Yeah, that's sad.
So that is hunter ignorance and a lack of respect for animals, and that doesn't happen often. But in the wrong hands, e-collars can be a really bad tool. That's kind of what I'm getting at. But 99% of the time, e-collars are a great tool for hunters, and that's just outstanding. So to answer your question, Nick, basically an e-collar is used for a correctable tool.
Yep.
And so you can't in the old days when we didn't have e-collars, you can't call your dog back to correct them, or they aren't going to come back after a while.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not going back there. He's going to punish me, or he's going to correct me, or, So you had to hoof it out where the dog was, to correct him on the spot where he was, and to correct whatever he did wrong, whether he got up after you had give him a sitz whistle or whatever, he got up and started moving. You got to get out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it saved all kinds of footwork, That's really what it was. And other than that, you need a partner to train, I think. Not always, but boy, it's great to have a partner to train because you can help each other with things, and you can bounce things off each other to see what's going on and what if this works or that works, and you can come up with ingenious ways to take and do different kinds of training, which is so much fun.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So that's great. It's hard to believe that back in the day thinking of this, no e-collar, training that.
I was in pretty good shape too because I had a dog that didn't listen. I had to go out. Had to hoof it out there.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
So tell us about, I guess some of your favorite hunts. I know you've been to Saskatchewan, you've been to North Dakota, you've done duck, goose. I think you've even done some snow goose from what I can remember. You've shot cranes, pheasants. I've had a great turkey hunt. Give us a couple of your favorites. What are your favorites? I mean, there's a lot of them. I know you've hunted for, how many years would you say you've been hunting?
1957.
Oh yeah, that's what you did say. 1957.
12 years old.
Yep.
63 years.
Wow.
Damn.
You build up a few experiences and, and some very special moments that are close to your heart,
Yeah.
Tyler.
That's right.
With that many years. And I want to start out by saying one of the best hunts I ever had was with Nick here. And it wasn't with dogs, it was with turkeys.
Yeah.
And we had these two gobblers, and we did a hell of a job. Called them right into us, and it was like an arcade. They were walking right across in front of us.
They were head to ass.
And 30 yards, I don't know if it was 30, but it was close, maybe closer than that.
Maybe, yeah.
And Nick said on 3, and we both pulled the trigger at the same time, and 2 big toms went down, and they both had over 10-inch beards, and they had
they're
hooks
big.
that were 1 1/8 inches.
Yep.
And so they were big.
Birds.
So I want to start out with that, Nick.
Yeah, but do you remember when we were scouting those birds and we had to lay down in the hayfield?
Yeah.
Because they flew on a ridge right above us, and I'm talking, we buried our heads in, and we could.
Alfalfa.
The birds were, I would say, 15 yards away from us, walking on this ridge, and we just laid down and didn't move. And all we had was our camo hats on, and we just laid there, and they walked right by us. And I was like, holy shit.
That was almost as much fun as shooting them.
It was. Because we had to lay there for a good half hour before we could get out of there. They were just hanging out
we
there.
didn't want to bust them,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know where to begin. I had another hunt with a good friend of mine. He had just bought a brand new pistol. He invited me to come out coon hunting. I'd never coon hunted in my life. I like to think outside the box. And I thought, I'll go coon hunting, but I didn't carry a gun. I didn't carry a gun. I just wanted to go with him. He had this brand new revolver. I mean, it was just unbelievable. The first thing that happens, we're walking down a cow lane. He takes off on a dead run, and I hear bang. And it was a full moon. He said, it's not going to be very good tonight. We got a full moon. Well, next thing I know, he's running as hard as he can run down this cow lane, shooting something, and he shot a skunk. He comes back and he says, well, I don't know if this is going to be a very good night, full moon, but he said, I got a skunk. Well, as it turns out, quick story, he shoots 11 coon. And he pays, and at that time, coon hides were $30 plus.
Oh.
And he pays for his gun and takes Catherine and I out to dinner.
Oh, that was nice.
And but we were standing by a cornfield, and at the edge of a cornfield, and listening. He had a dog. It was a mountain cur, man, and that darn thing. To stop hunting that night, we had to take and put him on a leash because he was putting coon up everywhere we were going. It was one of those. It was just one of those nights where the game was it was active. Well, we're standing by the edge of this cornfield, listening to the dog howl and bawl, and he was on a track.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we hear something in the corn just rattling the corn stalks, and I was getting closer, and I'm going, what the heck? And I'm thinking, man, maybe I better move. And about that time, 3 rows away, the biggest damn buck you ever saw come running out of that doggone cornfield. Somebody else's dog right on his heels. It wasn't our dog. Scare the bejesus out of us. It's dark out, and the doggone buck comes busting out of the cornfield. I mean, it was unbelievable. I could tell you about a lot of different
That's
stories.
funny because Nick almost got ran over by a deer. Was it last year? We were hunting pheasants, and we had one rooster kick up, and we were focused on that. And next thing you know, this doe just comes running straight towards Nick, and Brian only missed him by like 3 yards. Oh
Yeah.
man, that would
Well,
be great.
I'll get to the Saskatchewan stories and we'll call it good. But um, I had I have some friends that invited me to go to Saskatchewan hunting, and well, they talked a different language than me. They were all about 25 and 30 years old, and I'm about late 60s. So I don't understand. You know, they're talking all this computer stuff in a different language, and I just don't understand. But anyway, they invited me along, and I have to tell you, they are some of the most skilled and knowledgeable people that are waterfowlers that you'll ever run into. They are the most generous people that you'll ever run into. They are kind and thoughtful. Um, we had an experience up there, and I'll just get right to it. It was a bad experience. One of the guys was going to go off to get to the other side of this big, and it was a big, huge pothole.
Yeah.
And you could see highline wires, and so just aimed for a highline. He got out there, got lost, run out of battery in his cell phone. We didn't know where the hell he was. We couldn't get to him. We were shooting our shotguns off. He had run out of ammo. He couldn't hear us because of the way a bowl is. The sound kind of comes from different places.
Yeah.
And it was beginning about twilight, about like now. And we were going to send somebody 911 to town, and we're going to get some help from firemen and people to go looking.
Yep.
One of the guys had a blaze orange hat. We're waterfowl hunting. Why he had a blaze orange hat, I don't know. And we also had an ATV up there, and we take this ATV, we get out there, we get on top of the ATV, we got a gun, we've taken, put that blaze orange hat on top of this gun, and I'll be darned if he didn't see that.
Oh wow.
He saw that blaze orange hat. And he yelled. But we didn't know if it was him that we could hear or not. As it turns out, we were yelling back, and he was getting closer then, and it took him a long time. He was wet from head to toe. The potholes up there are hard pans, so you can walk on them for the most part. They're not muddy, sludgy. They're pretty good, so he could walk kind of until he got to the cattails, and it was a bitch. But that was a bad experience, but we got him out of there. Man. But I can tell you that typically 100 birds in a day is considered a trophy day. I don't know how many times we've done that. We've killed over 100 birds in a day's time. Easy peasy.
That is.
I'm talking 5 or 6 guys. And yeah, I'm talking about a migration in North America that is second to none, and you'll never see unless you go to Canada and see this waterfowl migration. There isn't a time in the day that you can't look up in the sky and see a bird flying.
Oh man!
And the size of the flocks are incredible. I don't want you to think that I'm a game hog. Numbers don't mean anything to me. I'm saying those numbers just to let you know that it's an incredible amount of birds up there. And if you do it right, like these guys have taught me how to do it, it is something that you will never ever forget. Layout blinds, camouflage, dogs, and stop and think about the number of retrieves your dog gets. When you shoot we shot 136 birds one day.
Oh, geez.
Holy shit.
136 birds. I've got a picture of that. I might have showed them, but it took me a half an hour to take and put them in. I put them in a 136 and then got on top of a pickup truck and took a picture down.
That's insane amount of birds.
And but the trophy for me, Nick probably knows, the trophy for me are sandhill cranes.
Yep.
You can shoot all the ducks and all the geese you want. I even shot a grouse up there one time. This place is just south of the boreal forest. And it's where agriculture just starts. And so it's pea fields and barley and wheat. And in those fields, there's sinkholes and there's huge white-tailed deer and lots of coyotes and stuff. But okay. So Saskatchewan is I forgot. It's an Indian name that means sky full of birds or something like that is what
Hmm.
Saskatchewan means. I don't have that right,
Wow.
but if you look it up, you can find out what that means. And it's true.
Yeah.
And the people up there, the people are just so hospitable, so pleasant. You go in for a cup of coffee, you're not going to get out of there for an hour. You're going to sit down at the table and they're going to shoot the shit forever. Yeah.
Uh,
What's really
we'll have
neat
to
is
make that a
sometimes these,
future trip.
if it's snow geese, you take and look out in this field from a distance, like you're traveling the gravel roads, you're scouting maybe or whatever, and you see rows of white, and you think, what the heck are these rows of? It's all the snow geese that are following the wheat that's been windrowed. They're on the windrows,
Oh.
eating all the grain. And when the farmers take
Huh.
that grain to market, it's got so much poop in it that they won't take it. They have to send it. They'll send it back until the guy is able to screen out the poop.
Jeez.
And so they want you there hunting.
Yeah. That is crazy.
Yeah, the people
Wow.
of Saskatchewan are wonderful, wonderful people.
Hmm.
Yep.
Sounds
Wow.
like we might have to do that someday, Nick.
Yes, we might have to.
Yeah, you only need 700 decoys and
Looks like we're gonna have to go through a guide.
Yeah. I'm not gonna
self-guided.
buy. Oh, I believe it is. Yeah,
Self-
it's a challenge of being successful. I mean, that's why we like going to South Dakota and going all public land and doing it ourselves and just
Yeah, the next
figuring
time
it out.
I'm on, Nick knows about it, and so do you, Tyler. As North Dakota, we're going to go up there December, late December.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you guys
November.
can maybe find
Yeah.
some time. But that's my next hunt. It's a pheasant hunt, and
Yep.
we got 1,500 acres up there, all private.
Oof.
Yeah.
Nobody hunts it. That time of the year, it's pretty windy. You know,
Yeah.
I don't like that. You don't know what the
Yeah.
weather's going to do. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Nope.
But the crops are out of the field.
That's a good
So-
thing.
And the birds will be sitting tight. The birds will be sitting tight usually if it's cold and a little windy.
Well, I think they'll be spooky as hell. Well, I don't know. We'll find out.
That's right. You will find out.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
I've been blessed. The wife has been very understanding, allowing me to take and do the hunting and stuff that I've done.
Yeah.
So I give Catherine a whole lot of credit. Hey, I love your hats,
You
guys.
need a wife like that.
Nick, yours looks good.
Yeah, you got it.
You can't
yeah,
see
yours
it.
looks
I'm
good
in the
too.
dark here.
Nice. We like it. They're comfortable.
There it is.
Cool
there
hat.
it is.
So, all right.
Thanks for letting me be a part
Absolutely.
of what you do, guys. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of
Could
fun.
listen to your stories for hours.
Yeah, we could. We'll have you on again sometime, Sorenson. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Informal and gets the listeners excited. Gets me excited just hearing you.
Yeah.
Greatly appreciate it. As always, flush them and dust them, guys. Thanks, Sorenson. Have a great night.
See ya.
Take care.
Later.